Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great morning. Um, we are, listen, we're at the end of the season, and this season, as bad as it's been, I'm ready for it to end and get ready to start thinking about next year. At least the good thing about football is there really isn't an off season, okay? Our season will end when we play the Commanders the last game of the season. But then the work starts up almost immediately. We've got teams that'll be in playoffs and the Super Bowl in mid-February, but the league year starts March, somewhere around March 15th. So at the end of February, you've got the combine that's happening. You've got, of course, looking at the draft picks and things. You got free agency, literally a couple days before the league year starts. You've got coaches that are being fired and replaced almost immediately. So there's no time to catch your breath. And immediately when this season is over, I hope that the Cowboys aren't catching their breath and taking it easy and going on vacation, because we have to figure out who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. So when we go to the combine, we know what positions that we're going to fill. And in the same breath, I hope that we have either retained the coaching staff that we have or already have the new ones in place so they can be part of the equation. And I believe the Cowboys are going to need to do things differently than they've done in the past. We've already got Stephen Jones talking about, things are going to be tight this year, much like last year, and of course, the thing that they always say is, we believe in our guys. We believe in our guys. Maybe, but I think back to last year, a lot of those guys that they believed in, they didn't hold on to, like Dorrance Armstrong. I believe that was a homegrown guy. Not that he's having a great season this year in Washington, but I believe that was a homegrown guy that, I remember when Stephen Jones was selling him to us being better than Randy Gregory, and right there as far as, production wise, Dorrance Armstrong, he's right there with Randy Gregory. And people laughed at him. People laughed at him. Be that as it may, I think of Tony Pollard. That was a homegrown talent that they had, a guy they drafted and so on and built, but they let him go. They ended up letting go Tyler Biadasz, who was a guy that they traded a draft pick with the Eagles to draft. They let that guy go. Neville Gallimore, the Canadian Bulldozer, defensive lineman, interior guy. They let him go. He signed with Miami. So you can go down the line with a lot of players that they had that they let go that were our own guys that maybe you think about keeping. And typically, the reason that they don't keep somebody is because they want to get paid. And unfortunately, Stephen Jones will look at it and say, we don't want to pay those guys unless they're injured. I know this is crazy, but when we have a guy who's been playing well and uninjured, it seems like they let him go. And we're at a crossroads this year with two very important pieces that I don't know that people necessarily realize. One, who really shined yesterday, and this is a contract year, is Osa Odighizuwa. Now, the Cowboys, we don't have a lot of defensive tackles. In fact, you look at Mozzie, who's come along, and he's still on his rookie contract. He's getting better. Osa has been our lead dog at defensive tackle, and he's a free agent. And throughout his time here with the Cowboys in the last 4 years, let's pop up the numbers here real quick. You can see Osa Odighizuwa has been consistent. Every year, his rookie year, he had 36 combined tackles, 21 solos. The next year, 43, 46, and right now has 40. He's on pace right now to have this be his best season. But what you're seeing here, when I look at this, is a lot of times what you'll have is you'll have a guy who has been consistent, and then all of a sudden his contract year just has a huge year. Jason Hatcher was one of those guys that he averaged like 3 or 4 sacks a season. And then his last year here with the Cowboys, in contract year, had 11, in which case the Cowboys let him go. He goes to Washington, and he settled back into the 3-4 that he had a year and was only there for 2 years. But you look at Osa Odighizuwa, who has been consistent. My only knock on Osa is I don't think he's as big a defensive tackle body-wise. He is very, very fast, and he has incredible hands because he was a wrestler. So he knows how to use his hands and be able to create separation. And you saw him yesterday being an absolute positive beast. And so when you look at this, this is his best season in quarterback hits. He's got 22, 5 tackles for a loss, 22 solo tackles. Again, he has 3 games left that he could end up being basically beating all of these numbers that he has right here currently. So you look at him constantly getting better and elevating it. But the problem is, and let's look at Pro Football Focus. The problem is when you have Stephen Jones, who says we believe in our guys, who doesn't want to pay guys. It always seems like we pay guys that are injured, but the guys that are good players, that are consistent, we don't seem to believe in them. And Osa Odighizuwa, knowing that we don't have a lot there, is a guy that we're going to need to pay. And unfortunately, this may be a guy who's getting $7-8 million for him to be able to stay with the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys have places that they can get money. Don't let them fool you and tell you that they can. It's not a matter of can they, it's more a matter of will they. But when you look at this, overall grade, he is ranked 50th with a 64.2 grade. Now, keep in mind that most of the defense has been evolving as the season has gone on. Osa was not looking really good early part of the season with this defense, as most of the defense. And I think part of that was the learning curve of Mike Zimmer. If you look at where he is now versus where the season started, it's night and day different. So the numbers can be a little bit deceptive, okay? But he is ranked 50th out of 212. So that's the top 25% of defensive tackles. His pass rush, he's rated 18th. So you've got a guy who's pretty good at rushing the passer. His run, he's middle of the road. Middle of the road as a run stopper, but the Cowboys, of course, always have problems with stopping the run. He's 121. So overall, he is a really good, solid player that stays healthy. When you look at solo tackles, he's 13th. Sacks, he's 18th. In assists, 120. Forced fumbles, is just not there. But you look at him overall, and you say, this is a piece that we need for next year on a defensive line that we need to continue to build. When you look at the Cowboys' needs, you're going to have to say linebacker because of losing Overshown. You're going to probably look at safety as well. You're going to look at defensive line. You're going to look at wide receiver. Some people say running back, but now the question is how you view Rico going forward. Do you look at that and say, Rico's a good piece, and he's another one who's a free agent? Do we look at that and say, let's let Rico go, we'll draft another guy to replace him? I don't have that answer, but these are decisions that the Cowboys are going to have to make. And one of these decisions, and we need to find out very quickly, is if Will McClay is coming back. Because like everybody as far as coaches go, Will McClay's contract is up as well. And his thing was he had unfinished business here, and his son or grandson was in high school, and he didn't want to change schools. So we have a lot of tough decisions and things that the Cowboys are going to have to do really quick, or else this shit could just go downhill, and they could be way behind and having another bad season. So next up, another surprise player that's a free agent that we're going to have to make a decision on, Rico Dowdle. Peace, good people.